Examination. This defendant representing himself there on the witness stand. Let me bring my New York guests into the conversation. Okay, look, we heard the former lawyer. Can you believe that story about the hit? Oh my gosh! So we heard the former lawyer say.
Unhappy client.
Been there.
It makes me very nervous. I don't put the court TV address out there, so don't worry, gentlemen, you're safe. So let me ask you what you think about this insanity, and we're going to go back to Mr. Eisenberg in a moment. But I wanted to get your comments while he's still with us. What do you think, Frank? You like the guy, but do you think he's crazy?
I like the guy. I don't think he's crazy. And people keep talking about his defense as being self-defense or justification. And that's a defense that essentially says, look, I shot the guy, but I was in fear for my safety. I thought he was going to kill me, so I did this preemptive shot. That's not what his defense is. His defense, and he stated it was an accident. The justification comes about from his deluded mindset where he's got dementia, he's got paranoia, he's got OCD, which led him to buy a gun, which led him to be afraid of these people. But he specifically says, I didn't mean to shoot this guy. This was an accident. And the one question I have for Mr. Eisenberg, I'm curious about one thing, was a trigger, the pull test done on this gun ever, and that's a test that basically will tell you if the gun fires too easily or as per manufacturer's standards, because that could have maybe helped this guy in his claim that the gun just kind of went off. It was a hair trigger. Right, especially since he claims he has no real experience with firearms. Well, let me jump over. I have to jump out to Frank Rothman because, Frank, I just got to get something out of my system. We've joked, you and I, and everyone here at Court TV thinks it's true. They all say that you look like Dennis Quaid. So I just had to know. Do you? Look, you do look like Dennis Quaid. So stop denying it. Embrace your other self. Someone said it was Randy Quaid, and that's what really ticked me off.
Now listen, Randy Quaid is a talented actor as well, but Dennis is the one you look like. All right, listen, now I've wasted time on that. Tell me quickly the best defense for Mr. Benayer.
From my point of view?
Yeah. Yes, Dennis.
Get this psychiatric testimony in front of the judge so they know just how paranoid, how demented, how unclear his mind was, and make it reasonable that he got this gun in case something happened to him in his warped mind that required him having a gun. Not that he was justified in shooting the guy in the back twice. I mean, it's a tough sell.
It's a tough sell.
I admire the guy. He's going down swinging, but he is going down.
All right, let me come over. Wait a minute, Frank. You said you'd actually like to be his standby counsel. Are you
Absolutely.
kidding?
Yeah,
we had the guy on, and he said it was just maddening not to be able to really represent the guy.
You know, you gotta. You run into enough difficult clients, as we call them, and you learn how to handle them. And maybe I'm wrong, but I think I could have had a great time with this guy. I think we could have done something good. All
right. Well, you guys have been terrific guests, even though you've had completely different opinions about this defendant. And the verdict's coming up later today, so everyone will find out how it goes down. But with that, the best defense will rest for the day. A special thank you to Frank Rothman, a.k.a. Dennis Quaid, and Michael Cornacchia for being with me today. I know you're both real busy. I appreciate you taking the time. I'll see you both again real soon. And cross-examination, Mark Benayer. All right, Frank Rothman, you still like this guy?
I like him more now than I did before.
You like him more now?
Absolutely.
All I can say is yipes. Yipes.
The guy is controlling the courtroom. He's asking the prosecutor questions about how the shooting could have happened a certain way. He's got the prosecutor answering his questions in front of the jury. Now, that doesn't mean that he's going to win. That doesn't mean that this is the best defense for him.
It just means that you like him.
He's doing really well. And when he says, I didn't shoot the guy, what he means is he didn't intend to shoot him, because he said before it was an accident. Well, but the prosecutor keeps acting as if he's denying the shooting when he's just denying the intent.
Right. It's a little bit of a semantic game, but it does remind me, Michael Cornacchia, of Colin Ferguson.
Yes.
Who would ask questions of witnesses, and he'd say, you didn't see Mr. Ferguson shoot anyone, did you? Referring to himself, of course, in the third person. And the witnesses would look at him and say, I saw you. You shot me. Yeah, now, two psychologists retained by the court found Benayer competent to stand trial, but all 5 doctors for the defense and prosecution found some disorder ranging from dementia to obsessive-compulsive personality traits. So is it really fair for him to be even here representing himself and on trial if he may not be able to assist in his defense. I'm going to bring my guests into the conversation. And again, I have Mr. Kranacchia and Mr. Rothman with me. And I really want to parse it out here because it's very clear to me from the emails, and I know this from teaching law, folks don't see the distinction between competency to stand trial and whether or not you are able to defend yourself in a case, which of course you have a constitutional right to do. So let me start with you, Michael Kranacchia. Explain that difference. Competency to stand trial, it's sort of the first issue the court's got to deal with, right?
Yeah.
Even before we get to the question of whether you're going to represent yourself. Let me jump over to Frank, because you kind of like the guy, but there is still this primary question of competency, and it really does have to do with whether or not you're able to assist in your defense before you even get to the question of whether you are able to defend yourself, right? Explain that distinction. And my experience, and I bet, Frank, yours as well, because our practices are somewhat similar, I find that the less competent someone is, the more arrogant they are in their competency. Most folks say, look, I'm not up for, I understand what's going on, and I'm really not up for defending myself. But very often I've had clients who are not competent, but they can't see it precisely because they're not competent.
It's a really low-level standard. A judge is going to ask a few questions, essentially. Do you know the roles of the parties in the courtroom? Do you know what your lawyer does? Do you know what I do? Do you know what the DA does? And anybody can answer those questions accurately. And then the second question, and the one that's pertinent here, is can you assist in your defense? And clearly, although he's making a bad choice of defense in going self-defense, or that I was justified in doing this, he can assist in his defense. He knows what's going on. He's choosing the wrong defense, but that doesn't make him incompetent to stand trial. It just makes him a bad lawyer.
Right. A bad strategy does not insanity make, or even a lack of competence make, as Michael pointed out. Those are two different standards as well. All right, let's bring my guests into the conversation. We're going to watch Mark Bonet on the stand for the balance of the show, gentlemen. But Frank Rothman and Michael Kranacchia, I had to jump out just to get your reaction to the whole mess of this case, not just the fact that you got an 81-year-old guy, he's on trial for shooting a man in the back, he's claiming self-defense, and guess what? He's representing himself too. Frank, what about it? What's your reaction to this whole thing?
It's going to sound weird, but I love this guy. He's
oh, come on, Frank.
I'm serious.
Have you ever met a criminal defendant you didn't love?
Maybe one in 25 years, but this guy I like. This guy's 81 years old or something like that. He's taking control of the courtroom. He's trying to evoke sympathy, going back to Nazi Germany. He's talking about his kids. I mean, ultimately, he's got one hell of a case. He's trying to fight here, but I like him. He's got what we call chutzpah.
Chutzpah.
There you
and
go.
It's very applicable in this case. We've got a few viewers, though, Frank, who disagree with you. They don't like Mr. Bonet at all. We're going to put up their emails in just a little bit.
They're not defense attorneys.
They're not oh, believe me, they're not. We're gonna go back in, gentlemen, and watch a little